Hello everyone, welcome back to the Card Combo Show with me, Chocobilly, episode 101. We are just on the cusp of Opus 19 now, and there's been a lot of, unsurprisingly, 9 cards revealed. Which is really cool though, because 9 hasn't had the most support in the while, it still doesn't have much synergy, but it's just nice to see more 9 cards regardless. Anyway, this week I am going to be taking a look at Yuffie from Opus 18, Selphie from Opus 13, Melusine from Opus 18, Odin from Opus 3, and Seifer from Opus 18. Seifer, I'll play it Seifer and play Seifer. Sorry. Right, Yuffie. So, yeah, everyone knows what Yuffie does. She gets a load of play. Haste, when Yuffie attacks, activate all the forwards you control until the end of the end of your opponent's turn. Yuffie gains plus 1,000 power, and Yuffie cannot be chosen by opponent's summons or abilities. Doom of the Living, S, to win, dull. Choose any number of forwards, divide 24,000 damage among them. As you like, units must be 1,000. Yeah, really good card. Lilith. So I made a Dancers deck, not amazing, because Dancers themselves aren't amazing, but Yuffie works really nicely with this, because with something like Lilith, where you can dull a Dancer, or dull 4 Dancers, to get different effects off, being able to make it so that you can, let's say you've got 2 Dancers on the field, your opponent's got a couple of forwards, but actually they could block Yuffie, or some of your Dancers. You can dull Lilith, and let's go with Mayakov, because it's probably one you're being played with, to dull out those 2 forwards. You attack with Yuffie, you then reactivate those 2 forwards, and you can dull further forwards out if you wanted, or you can just then attack with those guys as well. Or it's just a nice way just to be able to keep them active for the following opponent's attack phase, at which point you can then dull your 4 Dancers to then deal 8k to all their active forwards as well. So a nice way to be able to poke some damage through, whilst also having them active for your opponent's attack phase, ready to kill their stuff. Andrea Adair, yes, there will be a fair amount of Dancers in this combo, but actually using different things outside of Dancers. So Andrea Adair, obviously you can dull 2 active category 7 characters, all the forward opponent controls lose their abilities to end the turn. Very strong ability. Andrea Adair is very easy to kill, but that you shouldn't negate his ability just for that, because it is saved me a lot. Being able to just get rid of all the forwards abilities, you don't have to target them or anything, just as standard, dull Andrea Adair and Yuffie, for example, then they just lose everything. So you could attack with Yuffie, and then when Yuffie stands back up, then dull Andrea Adair and Yuffie. Now, annoyingly, if you're using Yuffie in the effect, you'd have to wait for Yuffie to stand herself back up to use Andrea Adair, and not be able to utilize Andrea Adair within that dull. But you could have Andrea Adair, and let's go with another 7 forward, Cloud, for example. You can dull Andrea Adair, Cloud, and then attack with Yuffie, stand those guys back up. All your opponents have lost their forwards. All your opponents' forwards have lost their abilities, sorry. And, you know, that'll probably be enough for Yuffie to be able to push through, and hopefully Cloud as well. Or you can just, you know, use Andrea Adair's ability to break something, which obviously would require a Cloud to become dull as well. But again, reactivated through Yuffie. Y'shtola. So yeah, dull 1 active Scion on the 7th Dawn, choose 1 category 14 forward until the turn, it gains haste and first strike. So there aren't really, I don't think there's any Scions in wind, but that doesn't mean that there aren't enough in lightning, and you could be multicolour anyway. I mean, I talked about Dancers earlier, and that's kind of in 3 colours, so again, not the hardest thing to do. So being able to have Scions and just dulling the Scions to give other Scions haste and first strike being very useful, and then attack with Yuffie to then reactivate them all, to then attack with those forwards that now have either haste or first strike. Balthier. So, yeah, again, this isn't exactly unheard of, but being able to use Balthier's effect to dull 2 active Sky Pirates to choose another Sky Pirate forward, give it plus 2k in haste, you then attack with Yuffie, reactivate Balthier, whatever got dulled. So that the good thing here is that Balthier can enter, bring in, let's go with Kites, bring them onto the field. You can then dull Balthier and Kites to then give Balthier plus 2k in haste, attack Yuffie. Now Balthier can attack as well. If you've got another Sky Pirate as well, you could give that one haste as well. You know, there's various different ways that you could do it, so you can actually attack with a couple of forwards even though they've only just entered this turn, and you're able to dull both the forwards to give them haste and buff. Luna Freya. Not going to happen, but still, here we are. Dull 1 active 15 forward. Luna Freya gains plus 2,000 power until the end of the turn, or dull 4 active for 15 forwards. Choose 1 forward, put it into the break zone. Put it into the break zone isn't, was actually really good, because it gets around any cannot be broken abilities. It doesn't take damage, whatever. Just put it into the break zone. It's really nice. Now, the one problem here is the fact that they have to be 15 forwards, which means you'd have 5 forwards on the field already, which would be Luna Freya, Yuffie, and then 3 other 15 forwards. And if you're in that sort of position where you can do that already, then you're probably winning. But that's not to say there couldn't be some other form of 15 deck where you are able to play things quite cheaply. I mean, obviously Kingsglaives can kind of do that already, but being in wind and water for that as well is a bit janky. I don't think that really works. So maybe some other variant out there. There could be some other interesting cards that get put in wind. We've got I'm trying to think what 15 cards there are in wind. There aren't many that, well, actually no, I tell a lie. You've got the Prompto and Ignis, but still they want to work with the Earth Noctises. I don't think it's just a Wind Noctis or a Water Noctis. So again, it's quite awkward to try and work it in a good way. So yeah, maybe not yet. I might be a bit ahead of the curve, maybe, hopefully. But still, dull forwards, put something in the break zone, reactivate them with Yuffie. There we go. Arc. So you attack with Yuffie, dull Arc, 3 other forwards. Choosing forward, it can be blocked by a forward of 3 or more this turn. So Yuffie then can't be blocked even if your opponent does have some big forwards. You can make it so another forward can't block as well. Yuffie then stands all those forwards up. Or Yuffie actually probably wouldn't need to be the one to be the target, which is a 10k forward on attack that can't be targeted. Chances are she's not being blocked. But you could make it so, for example, Arc can't be blocked. Everything gets stood back up. You then dull Yuffie and 3 other forwards to make it so another forward can't be blocked. Attack with Arc, attack with the other thing that can't be blocked. You'd have to have a lot of forwards for this to work, really. But again, that kind of applies to most of Yuffie's, or most of these combos with Yuffie anyway. But Wind is very easy just to play lots of cheap forwards onto the field, which either have haste or just be able to attack with them through, even though they're small, because they can't be blocked. Barret. Yeah, so if you control a Job Avalanche, don't care about that. Dull 1 active Barret. Choose one for opponent controls, break it. You can only use the ability of Job Avalanche operative you control when put from the field into break zone this turn. So let's say an operative dies for whatever reason, you can dull Barret. You can then attack with Yuffie, reactivate Barret. You can then dull Barret again to then break another forward. So you can break 2 forwards with the attack of Yuffie and Barret on the field. Now, in terms of an Avalanche operative you control when put from the field into the break zone this turn, Zhijie. So you can just put Zhijie into the break zone to get your Yuffie, play Yuffie onto the field, and this is assuming you don't have a Yuffie already on the field. Yes, I just flitted between Yuffie and Yuffie, sorry. I used to call Yuffie when I first started playing FF7, like when I was a little kid, and whatever. Yeah, so Zhijie to either get the Yuffie S, or to just get Yuffie, play Yuffie onto the field, attack with Yuffie, dull Barret, break a forward, reactivate Barret, dull Barret, break another forward. Just from breaking it back and playing Yuffie. That's really good. And I don't think I've actually... I mean, I don't really keep up to date with most of the tournaments these days anyway, but I haven't really heard or seen of this, and that could be quite fun. Right, next up we have Selphie. So, Selphie is... I'll be brutally honest, not great. So for each forward other than fire you control, Selphie gains plus 2,000 power. When a multi-element forward enters the field, you may pay a fire. When you do so until the end of the turn, it gains plus 2,000 power and haste, and then the end, which is an S, 4 fire and a dull, choose 2 forwards, break them. It's an unmitigated break, but it's 6 CP. Yeah, it's not great. If it were something like S and pay 2 fire, dull, choose 1 forward, break it, you can pay further 2 fire, break another forward. I don't know, might be a bit better, but they have to have 2 forwards, so it's not like you can only choose the one and break it if you really have to. But still, she gains plus 2k for every forward other than fire, so you need to play her in a multi-element deck, and obviously multi-element forwards, you pay a fire, they get bigger and stronger and faster. Aerith. So Aerith on the field with Selphie immediately becomes a 9k. Pretty simple. Aerith fits into multi-element as well, because Earth, so that would kind of fit Selphie's jig. Arc. Now, this is quite fun. So you could have Selphie and Arc onto the field, and let's say you use something like Refia to play Arc, referencing the Walls deck that I made previously or recently. Refia onto the field to bring in Arc. Arc could be also out of color. Let's say you've got Selphie on the field, and maybe you're actually in Fire Water. So let's go with, I don't know, Lena on the field. You've got Lena. You play Refia to bring out Arc. Arc now buffs everything plus 2k because there are 4 elements amongst the forwards he controls, and then Selphie would also gain plus 6k from each of the other forwards as well, so Selphie would become massive. I don't think there aren't any multi-element Inguses, Luniths, or Arcs at the moment, so Refia couldn't be used to bring in this, but again, Arc would like multi-element forwards because that then fulfills his prerequisite of being able to buff all your forwards, and similar for Selphie as well. Axstar. Yeah, so Axstar being on the field means that Selphie gains plus 2k because she's a forward other than fire you control, so actually it can't be It can't have fire in it, sorry, so I'm being dense there. So he'd have to be like Ice Lightning or something. So it has to be multi-element, but it has to be outside of fire for her to gain the buff, which is stupid. But it can be a fire-forward multi-element to gain the haste and plus 2k for the pay fire. So play Axar onto the field to play something else into the field. If it's another multi-element, that's pretty cool as well. But then you can pay 1 fire to give Axar haste and plus 2k, which is really good because obviously he's got his, when he enters, he deals damage, but also when he attacks, he deals damage. So you get that double buff as well. And if Axar plays another multi-element, you could potentially play 2 fire to make both of them have haste and plus 2k, which isn't the worst either. 9. So let's say you dulled a class 0 fire, class 0 lightning, you then play 9 onto the field. If those are literally the only 2 class 9 cadets you have onto the field, he at least will be doing minus 4k to a forward. You can then pay the 1 lightning to then give 9 haste, attack with that, and then do again minus 4k to something else, which is enough to hopefully just put something into the break zone. But again, it's kind of awkward because he's fire, so he wouldn't be buffing Selphie, but there are plenty of cadets and plenty of different elements, so they might be buffing Selphie as well. There aren't a huge amount of multi-element type 0 forwards I can think of at the moment, but 9 at least is 1, and he does have a really good effect where you might have a buttload of class 0 cadets on the field, play 9, minus 9k, minus 8k or 10k or something like that. You then give him haste for only 1 fire, which you're in the right elements for, and then minus 10k to something else again. That's really powerful. Barsh. So yeah, he enters the field. If you're at damage 5, or let's say you're at damage 4, you take a point of damage, you search something. I mean, yeah, you'd have to have Selphie on the field already to pay the fire from when he enters, because it's an auto ability which you make a payment. But yeah, you put yourself at 5 damage, you can then give Barsh haste with paying 1 extra fire. Barsh attacks, choose 1 forward opponent controls, deal 8k damage. He'll also be an 8k brave, so that's pretty decent as well, but he'll then be a 10k haste brave. And not to mention the fact that he can find you maybe a Selphie to then use for Selphie's S? Maybe? Golbez. This is kind of funny. Yeah, Golbez put into the break zone, bring out 4 different forwards of different elements, provided one of them is on fire. Selphie then gains plus 8k, which is kind of funny. And Golbez can play multi-elements, so, you can play a couple of different multi-elements onto the field, pay 1 fire, or pay multiple fire, to then give Golbez, give the other multi-element forwards haste, which would be pretty decent. If they've got really good effects, something like, I don't know, I've forgotten his name now, Caius, that might be quite fun. Right, moving on to Melusine. So when she enters the field, choose 1 forward, costs 4 less, you gain control of it until the end of the turn. Then you pay 0 until the end of the turn. Melusine also becomes a forward with 7,000 power, and when Melusine is chosen by your opponent's summons or abilities, if your opponent doesn't discard 1 card, cancel its effect. You can only use the ability once per turn. She's a 2CP lightning monster. Really fun card to play around with. So Garland is a fun one to do. So you play Melusine onto the field, take your opponent's forward. You then play Garland onto the field, you put the forward that you took from your opponent's field into the break zone. You haven't sacrificed anything of yours, you've just killed one of their forwards. Kefka. So Melusine onto the field, take one of your opponent's forwards, and let's say you've got another forward on the field as well. You put all 3 of those into the break zone to then play Kefka to break another of your opponent's forwards. You've broken 2 of their forwards. You have paid 2 for Melusine, which kind of sucks, but ultimately, and whatever the other forward you're killing as well. But if it's, say, something like a blue worm, so, you played it onto the field, you got yourself a card, and then Melusine, get something else. There's lots of good ways to still make it relatively efficient, and you're still killing 2 of your opponent's forwards, which is really nice. Illiwa. Melusine, take on your opponent's forwards. Doesn't matter if it was dull. You play Illiwa onto the field, use Illiwa's S. Melusine can now attack, provided you make a forward before you use the S. As well as the forward that you took from your opponent's field, because it will stand back up through Illiwa's effect, and then gain haste. Not too shabby. Odin. So, yeah, a very limited summon, but there are some fun things you can do with it. So it's a 4 CP lightning summon. Choose 1 forward. If it has 7,000 power or less, break it. If you control a job class 0 cadet forward, break it regardless of the power instead. Now, I'm actually focusing on the first part. So if it has 7,000 power or less, or break it. The reason is that Odin's text is just choose 1 forward. There is no other prerequisite there. Just choose 1 forward. And then, if it has 7,000 power, you get to break it, which can also be comboed with. So, Rydia, for example, let's say you cast Odin with Rydia on the field, you then get to minus 4k something. So let's say it's a 10k forward, it now becomes 6k forward. Odin checks when it wants to break it. Oh look, it's only 6k forward, break that forward. Similar sort of thing with Lulu. You get to set it to 5k, Odin breaks it. So it doesn't matter what its power is at that point, it becomes a 5k, Odin's an instant break. Soul, FFB. So you just get to set all your opponent's forwards to minus 2k. I mean, unless they have a 10k forward, which is definitely doable, you just get to break any of your opponent's forwards. Penelo. Dull another dancer outside of Penelo, which could be something like Lillicet because she is in lightning. You then get to set it to 4k with Penelo. Again, Odin, break it. And Gargas, you get to, every time you go to attack phase, choose 2 forwards, they get counters on them, and they lose 2,000 for each poison counter on them, which is just stupidly fun. But, yeah, it means that you can ultimately just keep on slowly whittling down what is a huge forward, or just, you know, the instant you go to attack phase, oh look, that forward's now 7k or less, Odin, dead. Alright, and finally we have Seifer? Who's a 3CP 7k lightning forward. When Seifer enters the field, you may receive 1 point of damage. When you do so, choose one category 8 forward other than card name Seifer in your break zone, add it to your hand. When you receive a point of damage, choose one forward. Until the end of the turn, it gains plus 2,000 power and haste. So again, lots of cards in this set that actually like to deal damage, but they will utilize that in a very good way. So obviously he can be used as a defensive mechanism as well. You take a point of damage, you then get to buff something, which hopefully then can block further attacks, which is a lot of fun. But he's also recursion, and recursion's a fantastic thing to have. So he is both defensive but offensive because buffing and haste and recursion and just, yeah, it's great, it's great. So Rinoa. Obviously, Rinoa's cost gets reduced for every 8 character you control, but you could play her onto the field, maybe at damage 4. Let's go for 2 CP. You then get your Seifer back to hand. You then play Seifer onto the field, put yourself to 5 damage. You then give Rinoa haste and plus 2k. She can then attack at 5 damage. She gets to dull all your forwards, all your opponent's characters, sorry. So yeah, not too bad. And again, Seifer entering the field gets to recur something back to hand as well, so that could be something else with haste as well. So, you know, that might work quite nicely. But these 2 cards together alone just work fantastically, which is hilarious because Rinoa doesn't really work that well out with like any squalls, outside of just be able to get squalled back, which I guess is kind of reflective of the story of 8 anyway. But yeah, just being able to get your Seifer back to then get something else back, give Rinoa haste, really good. Rinoa again. So this is actually in reference to her S ability, which is kind of silly. But let's say you've got Rinoa on the field, use the Angelo Cannon S, reveal 1 forward in your hand, choose 1 forward, get damage equal to the power of the forward you revealed. So let's say you've got a nice big old 9k forward in your hand, you show it, you get to break the forward. Play Seifer onto the field, and you get to get that S back for the Rinoa. Do it again. Not too shabby. Take a point of damage, give Seifer haste as well. Maybe that's made way, using the Rinoa S twice has made way to then have Seifer attack through as well safely. So yeah, there's just a little bit of fun that you can do there. Thancred. Yeah, so let's say you play Thancred onto the field and then bring something else onto the field. You then use Seifer. Oh, you then play Seifer onto the field, sorry. Actually, when Thancred enters the field, choose 1 forward in your break zone. If its cost is equal to a less than number of water forwards you control, play onto the field. So, you could choose Seifer. So, play Thancred onto the field to then bring Seifer onto the field, take a point of damage, get back an 8 character from your break zone, give Thancred haste and plus 2k. He can then attack, and let's say your opponent's got a 4-cost forward, you've got 4 lightning, 5 lightning things on the field. Choose an active forward opponent controls. If it's cost equal to a less than number of lightning forwards or lightning backups you control, break it. So yeah, you've not only just played stuff out of nowhere and taken a point of damage, obviously, you've then attacked and broken one of your opponent's forwards as well, which is lovely. Alcid, yeah, no one's thought of this one before, have they? But ultimately, Alcid working with something that gives haste like Seifer is really, really good because it comes out of nowhere. And now, obviously, the traditional play is Alcid into Zeramus because those 2 are disgusting together. But let's say you play, I don't know, Seifer onto the field, get something back to your hand, let's say Rinoa, and you give Seifer haste, you then play Alcid onto the field, and then you play, actually no, let's say you play Alcid onto the field, then play Zeramus onto the field, you play Seifer onto the field, then give Alcid haste, and you get something else back. You know, there's loads of different ways you can do it, but ultimately you've then got 2 lightning forward attackers that will get to dull things out. Alcid has frozen them, not to mention that Zeramus has frozen something as well, and again, let's say Seifer got back a Rinoa back to hand. She only costs 2 CP, 1 CP player onto the field, get to free something. So yeah, just Alcid and Seifer slash Zeramus slash Rinoa just work so well together, because it's a really fantastic way to just make a comeback as well. Again, it could be you play Rinoa first to then, let's say you play Alcid to then play Zeramus. You then play Rinoa to get back Seifer. You play Seifer to get back something else, it doesn't matter, but then you give, that takes you to your 5th point of damage. You then give Rinoa haste. You've got 3 freezes off from the Alcid trigger. You've got 1 freeze off from the Zeramus. You attack with Rinoa to then dull all your opponent's characters, so those frozen things are now frozen. You've then also got the Zeramus who can freeze back up as well, and then attacks you get a backup freeze. It's just, oh, there's so many disgustingly good things you can do with it. Gilgamesh, yay, because he's an 8 character. Finally, we got a Final Fantasy 8 Gilgamesh, but ultimately he has haste anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. But being able to get him back to hand to then play him onto the field, hopefully break something, and attack twice. And damage 3 is very easy to get to, and being able to attack twice just off of that, not too bad. Raijin. Just have Seifer have haste as standard anyway. That's just quite nice. So you play Seifer onto the field, play Rinoa onto the field, get back your Seifer, play Seifer onto the field, give Rinoa haste, but Seifer's got haste anyway. Again, takes yourself to 5 points of damage. You attack with Rinoa, double your opponents forwards, they take their 6 point of damage, you attack with Seifer, 7 you win, yay. In an ideal world, right? And there we go, folks. That is it for this week. Well, this month, actually, because that's how I'm doing them now. But yeah, a fair amount of lightning in this video, and I think that's reflective of how much I've been playing as well. I've always been a fan of lightning anyway, but lightning's just had a few more kind of interesting things, I think. Every other elements has kind of done the same thing it keeps on doing. But yeah, is what it is ultimately. I think lightning does really suffer from an identity problem though, because it's got so many different things that other elements do, but it kind of does them a little bit worse, which isn't amazing. But still, I've always really liked lightning. It has some of the more interesting cards in my opinion, along with water. I really like some water cards as well. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. What would you have comboed in this with some of the cards I talked about today? There are some, I mean, there are just far too many for me to talk about in every single video, but yeah, I just really enjoy looking at things like Melusine and Odin, for example. Odin, a card that hasn't been played for however long. I mean, even with the half-decent cards that Type 0 has, it doesn't even really have those good cards anymore. It needs a bit more support, outside of Ace, anyway. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the combos today, and let me know what other combos you guys have come up with. How have you been utilising these cards, and in what silly ways? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and be lucky, and see you in the next video. Bye!